International show here.
Yeah, very international. Welcome, fellers. Or good eye, Shane, I should say. What time is there, Shane? Like 6 a.m.
Yeah, mate. It's 6 a.m. on my neck of the woods. Sun's been up half an hour already. I just found out just now.
I was going to say, sun's been up half an hour already. It's like you've been up about half a minute.
Yeah.
How's fatherhood going?
Man, fatherhood's the best. I think I've said this a few times over other podcasts and when I've spoken to people, but I genuinely love every piece of it. It's been one of those things where T and I would have always wanted kids for, at least for a long time. And you always feel like the timing is never right. And even in our case, it didn't feel that way. But Willow in our life, it just felt like the timing was perfect, and you just make those minor tweaks or adjustments that you need to. And I'm sure every father and mother out there absolutely know what I'm talking about. It's humbling in that sense, but it's so rewarding. So rewarding. I love it.
I'll let you know when I get to that place. I'm 3 years. I'm nearly 4 years in. And I've yet to find that rewarding. No, I like it. But big year though. So you had Willow arrive. You bought your first Porsche. Like it's just been such a whopper year. Just incredible. I can't. What's the girl's name? Not Sharon.
Willow.
Fuck. No, not your daughter. The fucking crypto advisor.
Sharon. Have they said more? Have they told?
They're all over it, man.
Oh, it was pretty good. Oh my God, it was just, I was like, that is really even if he did buy one, it's really unlike Shane to put up like, hey guys, I just bought a Porsche, I'm a prick. I was like, that's not like him. Jessica.
Yeah, good girl.
Jessica Ali, yeah. Man, she's really turned your life around. I mean, if Willow was a shock to the system, I'm sure like sleeping on a bed of money has been like, just really affected your sleep.
Yeah, crypto has changed my life.
It has in the last 24 hours anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So just a bit of back context for everybody else. My social media just got hacked yesterday.
Do you know how that happened?
No, I don't. But I know how I found out. I was just driving to the gym and
in your Porsche.
Yeah, congratulations on the latest purchase. And I was like, I don't know what they're really talking about here, but I thank you. And then it started rolling in like, hey, I think you've been hacked.
Yeah.
So
it always, anytime I see those kind of posts, I'm like, will I message them? And I'm like, surely someone else is on. Like, I don't want to add to the like, sorry, mate, I think you've been hacked.
Well, I got more hack messages than I did than happy birthday messages. So I think at least it's in the right context. Context.
And then Nick, you're holding down the fort, so you're in Nashville.
I'm here. Like, yeah, it's a very scarce fort right now. I'll tell you that much. But we're holding it down.
Yeah. You're just kicking the tumbleweeds out of the gym. Just feel like keeping it clean. When so you've been like officially the CEO of Prvn for like coming up on a year, or just gone by a year?
8 months. Yeah. 8 months. So it was middle of January. Wadapalooza was our first event where it was official. So coming up on a year.
And then obviously it was a very unusual year for you in a lot of respects because you had, so when you were, I guess, mooted as being like, oh, Nick, do you want to take over and, like start doing CEO shit? You like in that conversation, Tia was going to be competing, like there was like everything was, it was kind of setting up to be your standard season with, on top of that, there was going to be like the team and whatever was kind of being talked about. Then you come in and it's like, oh, Tia's not competing. They're actually going to have a child. So obviously they're going to be very busy and like trying to sort stuff out there. So did you find, was it like obviously very different, but was it like harder than you expected to be? Was there more on your plate than you expected to be in that first few months?
Yeah, I think your timeline's right because I did not know Tia was not going to be competing when we had this first conversation. And what we had thought going into the year was like, all right, it'll be the same season as always, but this year Taylor's coming over. The team's going to happen. It'll be really awesome. I'll just be a coach. It'll be really good day to day to be there. I'll still work my other job. I'll come in when I can. We'll move to Nashville, which makes things easier. But then when Shane and I really sat down and had the real conversation of me coming over full time, it was like, oh, now I've got a wife to coach, I've got a business to run, and then here Tia is gone. The person that is the face of the business. So, but it came out to be one of the best things I think could happen for this year to be the way it was set up with Tia, because she would be able to get her hands in the business a little bit more, which even as we're finding out now, when she's all in on the athlete side, there's no reason that she should be worrying about the business, and it worked out perfectly time-wise.
Shane, you guys, like, it's weird for you because like, so from pre-conception of Prvn, not of Willow, but from pre-conception of Prvn, your marker of success was Tia's performances. Like, if she did well, you were doing well, and she was doing well, and everything was fine. And then the next year, if she does well, you're doing well, everything's going fine. And like, doing well for her is doing well. It's like a different scale than a normal athlete, where like doing well for her is like dominance, or like, you know, like first, like not first is like, oh, that's not great. So like, that's been your marker of success since, you know, she hadn't lost she still hasn't lost an in-person competition since she finished second or whatever. Like, so she's like, that's a very high bar for success, and it's a very easy metric to use to be like, was this year a success? Yes, Tia did well. Was this year a success? Yes, Tia and Matt did well, or whatever. This year, then, your marker of success, like, how do you, what's your litmus test? Like, how do you pinpoint, like, yes, it's everything's going well, or, you know what I mean? It's been a very different year from all the other years with those kind of metrics.
Yeah, so I think metrics, when you're comparing at the CrossFit Games or any in-person any competition for that matter, particularly in CrossFit, it's hard to use that as your metric for success, meaning that the test can vary so significantly that or can challenge the athlete completely. You know, like to say a series of workouts just don't go their way. That is a hard indicator to put on the athlete to determine whether the season was a success or not. Particularly with Tia, like that's a great example. Like in 2022, she felt that season wasn't her best performance, and she was actually upset about that performance. And there could have been the Willow factor in there as well. And then, but so what I'm trying to say is that even coming first and having that play out right in front of me here, it wasn't the best. I mean, that wasn't an indicator of her feeling she had a successful year, if that makes sense. In fact, in 2016, like she felt like she had her best year because it was like a big breakthrough year. Up until the games, even coming second, she felt like she was. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is with Willow on the backside of me here, I don't think competition is the best indicator of to judge their season.
Is that her first? Is that her first podcast appearance? Is that Willow's first?
Yeah, I think. Actually, no. She interrupted Tears.
That doesn't count though. That wasn't you, so it doesn't count. Shane.
Exactly.
Shush.
Yeah.
Her first.
So I'm in the corner of my eye, I'm watching it unfold here. So I think Tia's helping me out here in a second.
Yeah, there is nothing worse than, like, I've had that where I've been doing stuff here and I hear someone crying, and then you're like mid conversation, you're just like cannot hear a word I'm saying or the other. All I'm listening for is the crying going to stop, and do I need to get up and go? Like, am I required here? So when, like, is it difficult then? So your season obviously changed. Like, you kind of had a flip flop at the end of the last season where there was talk that Tia was going to 2. There was talk that Tia was going to retire, and then she was coming back and she was going to go again. And then obviously, like, Willow, didn't come along, but was like preparing to come along. You kind of had that like in out feeling. Like, do you just totally step back? So remember you saying before with Matt and stuff that you just kind of step back and you're just like, you just decide and then just tell me what you're going to do and then I'll respond. Is it that easy, or are you kind of like, do you give any input, or are you just like, whatever you want, man, whatever you want?
Yeah, I think it depends, right, for the athlete. Particularly with tier, like every year, it's like we don't talk about like the future of like, hey, 3 years from now and all that, because it's such a burden on the athlete to go, oh boy, I've got another 3 years,
Yeah.
So we just try to keep it season to season and just work on the things that we can, what are right in front of us, rather than thinking about those far goals. But for Nick and I, or for all the coaches, we're thinking and we're projecting about, okay, this is what we would like to see. Like these are the, in performance. These are the things that we're thinking about in the off season that we're going to trigger or work on, or these are the things that we're going to do in the during the season. But in terms of like performance and for the athletes, we just focus on the task at hand, whatever that competition is, and particularly after the games, we just have this big reset period of time where it's like, hey, go do you live, catch up on the things that you missed out on all year, and then come back and see the September, October, and then like before you know it, 9 times out of 10, the Open's around the corner, and they're back in the groove and the swing of things. I think it's about creating that environment for them to like have their escape or have that time away. And I think we spoke about this last time. It's particularly for the CrossFit season now, how it's starting to lengthen out with the off-season competitions and the on-season comps. There isn't much time for an athlete to rest and recover. So for when Nick and I speak, it's like, how do we maximize the amount of time or period of time the athletes can actually rest and stay away from the sport? Because that's what allows them to have that longevity. And again, it's case-to-case basis.
Do you ban them? Like, do you say, right, you're not allowed in for a month or 3 weeks? Or
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah.
I think Tia does a pretty good job of banning herself. I don't think she goes near it ever. Yeah.
When you knew Willow was coming down and you were kind of, in your nesting stage or whatever, and then after she arrives, so you were at the games, you had like semifinals, you were at the games, you had, I guess, you had quarterfinals, semifinals, you were at the games, and then you had these kind of obligations and stuff at the games, so you're kind of busy with that kind of stuff, but you still have your like, you literally have it on now, but you still has your Prvn hat on and your coach hat and whatever, but then you also have Willow and you have to help Tia with her stuff. Is it difficult to stay focused? I know when my first kid came along, I couldn't give a fuck about my job. Like, I just did not give a shit. Like it just wasn't on. I was like, I'll turn up, I'll do it, but like, I am checking in and checking out. Like, I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth for it, and I just didn't care. It just wasn't like valuable enough to me to take away focus. Like, was there periods of time for that for you, like where focus was difficult to kind of laser?
I wouldn't say that I didn't care at all. That was absolutely not there. I think May was a limbo month. Like, I don't recall too much of that, was just with the sleep and everything going on. But what did keep me in check was like the semifinals and staying engaged and tuning in and watching it all there, and then trying to support from the hotel room, the hospital room, or wherever I was. April was pretty tough in terms of like juggling a few things because it was just getting near crunch time and a lot of appointments there, and just logistically, some of the things for us, it's being foreign to America and trying to work out the hospital systems and being confident in that. Insurance was a big conversation, yeah. So like just some of those barriers of logistics were real thoughts, I guess, at our dinner table, rather than the normal where we would have had like, hey, like, how is training? And, this is what's happening. We're 4 weeks out from the competition, But in terms of checking in with the athletes, we've got a great coaching support team, and it was built out prior to that point to have Dwight and some of the coaches like step in and fill in those roles with the athletes, and they did a phenomenal job of keeping them in check, keeping me posted in. So other than the sleep deprived and the reality of being, an early parent, no, like I loved the escape or the minutes that I had with the guys too. Like you build this bond, and it's important to them and it's important to me.
Tia was just on the podcast. I'm counting that, her walking past in the background.
Yeah, check that off the list.
I'll just change the title. Yeah.
Exactly.
Tia Toomey exclusive. It's just like Tia dries her hands.
You do a screenshot of that one. Just capture that.
So this Built for Athletes thing, then Nick, that's got your kind of stamp like CEO all over, I suppose. Why them? Because obviously there's a lot of different like companies around that are offering. Like, I think I know why them, but I suppose I want you to tell me why them, so I can say yes, I agree, Nick.
Yeah, because you've been with them, I think, obviously longer than we have, but as we launched yesterday. But Ewan actually, he reached out, I want to say back in March. So right after I came on. And to be quite honest with you, we didn't know much about the brand other than Nick Matthews with them.
Yeah.
And he had said really good things. And I kind of saw the quality that they were talking about there with some of the bags he had. But the bigger thing was, I think, the interest they had in the brand as a whole, and especially with Shane, because their whole mindset there is, hey, we want to do things that are going to give athletes the best possible product rather than just, hey, we're going to stick something out there. Hopefully a bunch of people buy it, and then we'll move on to the next one. You can tell with the quality they've come out with, it's just high tier. And the minute we got them into our athletes' hands, like he sent over that week, I think 3 or 4 that we gave to the athletes. And they said, hey, this is the best bag I've used. Like, are they going to come out with duffel bags? Are they going to come out with more bags? Just because they loved them in the gym. And that's number one for us. Like, every product that we either partner with or that we come out ourselves, we want to make sure that if we're going to promote it, our athletes are using it, right? Because it's the exact same stuff that we want to tell people we're using on a daily basis. And this was the quality, like top tier, working with those guys from even a back end logistics. They've been great since day one.
Yeah, the thing I really noticed about them as well is that they actually give a shit, like that they're not Ewan, like Ewan's my only really point of contact there, but like he made the mistake of adding me on WhatsApp. So like now I just have, and I'm like a real stream of consciousness person where I'll just think of something and be like, I'll just text that real quick. And then like, it could be 3 a.m. but it's like, I've just had the thought, I'm going to send it. And like, there's never like, mate, just fuck off. It's like, for why? It's like office hours. But yeah, no, they are like, it's everything is everything is driven for like furtherment. Like either like, all right, can we get the athletes to, you know, can we take a bit of stress off their plate and can we increase the thickness of their wallet while we're at it and make it a bit easier for them to compete? And then for like general consumers like me, it's like, all right, can we make your day less stressful by giving you like an adequate amount of compartments without just blocking all the space off in your bag with compartments? Haven. And then it makes it easier. It makes it easier for me. Like I can bring on, like I went to, where the fuck did I go recently? Madrid. And I had my bag and I had like all my clothes, laptop, like camera gear, everything in it, literally no problem. Overhead compartment, no problem. Like everything is safe and everything's padded. It's really good. So yeah, like that's why I think that give a shitness that they have is why I thought like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because like you say, you can just buy some Chinese website. You could just buy 500 bags, stick a Prvn logo on them and be like, there you go, buy them. But like, it's about the quality in the end as well. The most recent news then that I've heard from Prvn was on Savannah last week. Saxon was on and he said he's leaving Prvn and he's going back to Facundo and Mayhem. And then during the week this week, Brooke put up a very like, you know, inconspicuous post, but I kind of had heard a rumor that maybe she's going to HWPO, and in the post I was like, that's a very like shut up and do the work post. I wonder, is this leading to an announcement? And then sure enough, the next day she's joining HWPO. Those kind of conversations for you guys, do you see those coming? Do you assume that like there's going to be changes every year, and like when you know that those changes are coming, are you hopeful that it's not maybe a linchpin person, you know, like a pillar person that's been there a while and that's a bit of a face of the brand kind of thing? Like, is it hard when someone comes to you as a coach and says, hey, I think I need to change?
Yeah, I think this year, so we obviously knew that this was coming and that we had multiple conversations on both ends with this. And I think for us this year, 2023 was a big year for our growth plan, right? Like, it was the first time I think in the brand's history outside of T and Chain that we were able to sit down, the three of us, and say, hey, where do we want to go next year? Where do we want to go in 5 years, 10 years, whatever is our plan? This is kind of the foundation we need to set. So a lot of stuff happened this year, I think in 2023, that, hey, we've got to start putting some lines in the sand and we need to start figuring out where we want to be forever. Because I think the first 2 years of business was trying to figure out what works. And I think everybody in the training camp environment right now is trying to figure that out. Where can we sustainably make this grow, but at the same time offer the best product. So I think, I mean, one of the biggest things that come up for us is the culture, right? And a lot of people, that's a buzzword people like to talk about now, but it really comes down to the core values that we see and the standards that we want from the people in our camp. So, I mean, the big thing right now is Coach Prime, right? Like the coach for Colorado. If you know anything about college football, he's all over the internet. But you go back, you look at the first meeting he had, right? Like he walks into that room and he doesn't know these guys, calls the players in. He said, hey, half of you guys are going to get cut or half of you should go to the transfer portal. Like you're not going to be here anymore when my players come in. And you sit back as fans, you get kind of hyped up. You're like, oh, that's cool. But you think about that from a player standpoint, it's aggressive, right? But the only reason that man was brought in was to change a culture and to change how he viewed a team doing something. So I think that resonates a lot with us right now where we are moving into 2024 and the conversations that we've had with all of our athletes, that we will have with all of our athletes that are coming is, hey, we need to know that when you come to Prvn, you're going to have the same core values that we believe in. Because if we're going to go and we're going to put our necks out in giving you the best product that we know we have, because we know how to make champions, right? It's been done over and over again. We've got the best guy sitting right here that can do it, but we need to have that feedback from you and that buy-in when it comes to some of our pillars, right? So hard work and dedication, accountability and communication, and just having a champion's mindset when it comes down to that. And I think a lot of change, it hurts people, right? Because when people are so used to doing something one way, that's when things get uncomfortable when somebody like us or somebody like a new coach comes in and says, hey, we're doing things this way. We're not going to compromise or bend on them, but we know the way things should be. And I think that's our biggest goal moving forward. And those conversations are really hard, but we need to kind of lay the law down when it comes to some of that. And people aren't always going to like it. We know our training camp's going to look different every single year. But when it comes to training professional athletes and people that are going to make a living on what they're doing, we've got to know that we're giving our best and they're giving it back. And that's really where we want to go moving forward. So when it comes down to the people, we love the people, right? It's never anything personal. It's never anything that we want to come in between our relationships outside of the sport. But when it comes down to the sport, there's things that we just can't bend on, and there's things that people won't agree with that they may differ in. Just like Saxon said, like there's always going to be differing opinions, and we hope nothing but the best for anybody that may leave us or anybody in the future that may leave. And that's just kind of what we're working towards moving forward.
Shane, like, how do you differentiate? So, like, Nick's talking about core values there, but like, there is a danger of like being cliche there, where, and like, I don't mean to say that you are, but like, if you ask any training camp, they'll say that hard work and dedication and a winner's mindset, and like that you're here to win and you're here to train and stuff. Like, that's kind of is that a bit of a gimme, like if you're joining a training camp, especially an in-house place like yours or like HBPO or like Underdogs at Ryan or whatever, that like when you're there to train, learn, get better, win, compete, whatever. How do you alter now this year? Do you say, all right, well, how can we differentiate ourselves from the other people that are saying the same thing that we're saying, that it's hard work, that it's dedication, etc.?
Yeah, I don't think we look at it more of a comparing mindset. It's more about the trajectory of the path that Nick and I and Tia has a lot of weight in it as well. We're focusing on where we believe and what we know, right? And we're just steering the ship the direction that we know. In terms of comparison to other camps, we don't know exactly what their core values are. I'm sure they're probably similar. I don't think there's significantly much different. But what we're confident on and where we put our energy is just like the things that we want to control and where we want to sit. And Nick nailed it on the head. This is the first time that we've seen some substantial growth in our brand, which is phenomenal, right? In that sense of like the holistic or the whole approach of the brand, and then seeing us lay out the foundation of, okay, this is the marker of where we want to be in 3 and 5 years from now, and then placing like now that we have a clearer vision of what we're trying to obtain. The values have always been lingering all there. We've just raised them to the top now and just put that in position. But to really answer the question, we're really focused on what we want to achieve rather than what the what seems to be the, what everyone else is kind of doing, So I think there's a shift there where we're not paying complete attention to everything. I think Nick is, from a CEO and a brand perspective and marketing and all that end, but from a coaching and a philosophy or methodology, we're focusing on what we know. Yeah.
You obviously don't compare, to the other camps in the way that I would. If I had a camp, I'd be constantly
and I think that makes sense, right? Like that's how you're creating, not narrative, but you're allowing to, source.
Well, it's human nature, isn't it? It's like,
absolutely.
I look at my views and my downloads, and I look at others. Yeah. So like you don't compare in that sense, because I suppose you kind of quickly come to the realization, I suppose like I did, that it's a fruitless endeavor, because, similar to using competition as a metric, it's like you can only control so much. But like, does it sting a bit when an athlete leaves and goes to what would be seen as an absolute parallel competitor, like a direct competitor? Like, would you rather that, they just went somewhere totally different, as opposed to like going from, say, the Prvn and Tia camp to, HWPO and Fraser? Like, is that kind of a frustrating move?
Oh, no, not. I don't see it that way. Honestly, the biggest thing, what we can do as whole as a CrossFit, right? Like, I think this is a professional industry, so that's the reality, right? Like, the rosters will change from year to year, and we've got to accept that and understand that. And I think that's completely fine. And the conversations we've had with the athletes, everything's amicable and everything's above ground in that sense. And I'm, like Nick said and finished off with, like, we're really genuinely happy for those athletes, and if this is their best move for themselves, we understand that. And again, Nick said it, and I've said it too, like, we're confident and proud of the product that we create, and we've got great relationships with both these guys, and it's not going to derail us or change the path that we believe and what we know and what we're confident about. It's just the nature of the sport, and absolutely we're just focusing on what we can, and we've got great things coming too.
Yeah, I think Peter, to answer that a little further on your point of the values too, what we learned this year, because I think standard boilerplate, they're all going to be about the same. But what we did dig into a little bit more is kind of the communication and accountability aspect. And that goes across the board for everybody, because when we start diving into these bigger camps, like you've seen a couple pop up now that we've already talked about that have tons of games athletes, it comes down to how you can individually serve people, even though they're on a team of 10 individuals, right? Like, they're all competitors at the end of the day, whether they're men or women. So we are going to give them what we think is best for them. But at the end of the day, like, this is their profession, this is their lifestyle. They've got to be able to communicate with us and take accountability for what's happening. Because I think a lot of times you can look at something and say, well, it's out of my hands. Like, I hope I do well this season. And if not, I've got something to fall back on. Like, where we've got to be able to, hey, if it's a week into something, you don't like what's going on, or you don't feel good about something, you're a veteran in the sport at this point. For anyone, you've got to give us some feedback. You've got to tell us what needs to change, and we've got to make changes, which I think we can do better than anybody, because we're in it that deep. It's just when you're working with these big camps, we've got to have feedback. And I think that's something that we want to throw in this year a lot more when it comes to the day-to-day aspect, having more individual meetings with people, sitting down with athletes and talking more about what's going on outside of the gym, rather than just, hey, what was your workout time today? How did you do on this, that? So psychologically, it can be more of an advantage for them to feel like they're being heard, they're being changed on their programming to whatever they need, and that they can have the best success moving forward when they're moving towards a competition.
Is that off the back of last year though? Is that a reactionary thing? Is that like, okay, this is obviously something that we've identified as we could have done better at, is communication? Like, because immediately when you say that, I think of Saxon on Savan's show saying that he felt he was overtrained and that he hurt his, like, got that plantar fasciitis. I nearly said flaccid. He got that because, like, it sounded like he injured his back, was ramping things up to try and, kind of make up ground, and overtrained and hurt his foot. But when you hear that soundbite, it sounds like I was overtrained. That's the clip that's going to be sent? Do you know what I mean? That people are going to hear. Like, is it off the back of those kind of things that you're saying, okay, we need more feedback, we need more, like, we need to know more day to day, so that those kind of conversations are happening between coach and athlete and not between athlete who's left and media or whatever.
Yeah, I think for us, this was the first time in 2.5 years that we had really had a failure, to be honest with you. Like, I hate to say it that way, but all of our athletes from the minute we started in 2021 to 2020, halfway through 2022, had always been going in a direction that looked like they were improving. They were doing better at the games. Everything we had been doing from the coaches' side looked like it had been going right. And obviously, I think this year, with Tia being away and maybe Shane, like you said before, being away a little bit more, it may have exposed a little bit there, because, hey, we had 2 athletes that got hurt. We don't know what happened here. We know the day-to-day what happened, and we didn't see much going on there. But yeah, maybe it could be reactionary there. But if we don't take the opportunity to kind of look back on those things, that's how we don't grow. So I think that's where this comes from. So this can never happen again. Obviously, injuries are a part of the sport, and we can never get away from that no matter what can happen. But we do want to make sure that we're professionals in mitigating those risks however we can.
Is it worrying when it's the same injury, like when 2 people suffer the same injury? Is that like does that make you stop and pause, or do you just think that it's, again, like that injuries happen in sport and you just kind of, you didn't see anything out of the ordinary, so you carry on? Or do you say, oh, that's a bit weird that 2 people had the same issue?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest marker there. I think what Nick's alluding to, of like a lesson to be learned there, and working backwards to work out what that trigger could have been, and what the overworked scenario or movement may have been. And we've done some capturing and seen some of those trends leading into the competition as well. And that's the reality, right? When they announce workouts 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out, the athlete wants to do it 1,000 times. And I think that we find that with some personalities just want to keep testing these workouts. And that's that transparency Nick's talking about, of making sure that we have that open communication of like, hey, like, here's your training plan. Like, did you do anything yesterday that could impact that? Or how does your body feel? And they're the conversations that we need to be more open up with the athletes, and having that that communication line free open with the coaches.
So Tim said on a Hiller video, I think the other day, on Hiller's vlog from NorCal, that he's going to just train and see what happens, sort of thing. And he's got another child on the way, and like, good Lord, best of luck with him with 2. So he's gone, is what I take from that. Brooke is at HBPO. Saxon is at he's staying in Nashville, but he's with Facundo. Is Brooks because like, is there a plan to have an affiliate? Is there a plan to have a proven like HQ, or are you happy in East Nashville?
When is this coming out?
I mean, currently it's like literally going up live now. But yeah, no, I can put it out whenever. Just answer the question, Shane. Stop being so sneaky.
So I think that's the exciting stuff. Like Nick and I have talked about the path of what we want to do, and some of the big things that we're trying to change and pivot, and where we see a lot of room and growth for the CrossFit community. And a CrossFit HQ, a proven HQ and an affiliate is something exciting for us, and something that we're working towards. Since this is coming out soon, we just want to say, something in the pipelines that we're excited about in the near future.
Like by end of year kind of thing.
Who's your source?
Hypotheses is my source. Okay, that's cool. And is that going to be in Nashville still? Yeah,
that's the goal.
Okay,
that's
okay. Is this like
hey, let's talk about your squat rack behind you there. Is that just, do you use that, or is that just
it's incredibly unstable. Do you know what the worst thing is? The J hooks. I remember like the gym I used to go to, the guy that owns it came over and was like getting back equipment during lockdown and stuff. And he was like I bought these online. And they were like so cheap, but it was just some random welder made them, and was like, he dropped them off in his van. They weren't even painted, like there's chips all over them. but like the two J hooks go the same way. Do you know what I mean? So like you put them in and they turn.
Yeah.
And like he was looking at them and he was like, I mean, that's such a basic safety feature, like such a simple thing to get right, and he got it wrong. So whoever is designing the Prvn HQ, I wouldn't hire this guy from Ireland that welded that squat rack together.
No, I think we trust what Rogue build.
Yeah, well, he'll definitely do it cheaper. Like, 100%,
save a few bucks there. Absolutely.
Yeah. It'll cost you in like litigation, and later on, further down, like you're kind of kicking the can down the road. Like you're fucked in about 2 years with all the claims and stuff. Okay, so that's very exciting. And then, how do you? Yeah, I have a lot of questions about that now, but she's not going to answer any of them. How do you pick?
I know. I'm trying to be. I got to be diplomatic with Nick on the podcast too. Man. That's your fault for inviting him.
Peter, this is a shock to me as well that we're discussing this on your podcast. So this is good. This is exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten fuck all, but yeah, great. I know who the equipment supplier is, and I know that it's a potential thing that might happen. I feel like this is like there's a dotted line waiting for a signature, and nothing's going to be talked about until that page is signed, because just in case you have
I feel like that's what it was at Wodapalooza when we spoke too, right? Like whenever we talk, I said, "Yeah, you'll find out."
I'm too eager. I need to wait a week. I need to wait like a week or 2 weeks all the time. Okay, so then. So those guys are gone. What about the others then? Like, what about Will? Is he going again? Is there talks? Has he decided what he's doing yet?
Yeah, I think we'll probably let Will talk on it, but like he's still around us. We talk to him daily. Like everything's good on his end. I know he's getting to the point of his career where he is back and forth, right? Like, am I going to go another year? Am I done? Whatever it may be. But yeah, as far as we know, like he's still training for Rogue right now. Everything's full go on his training, and he's healthy, which is the most important part, which is good. Is
it a bit annoying for you, Shane, that the other Will, that Carney is kind of like he's good at CrossFit, and he's actually like he's moving away from his coaching responsibilities in order to be a really good athlete, and it's just kind of inconvenient for you?
Yeah, exactly. I think, and then every time we come to Australia, he's in America, so timing couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah. He did really well though last year. Is he going to go again, do you think? Is that has he got the drive for it, do you think?
Yeah, both Wills do have the drive.
Yeah, that's good. And then Olivia, is the plan with Olivia the same, that she'll, what would you call it, winter with Hepner and summer in Nashville? Is that the plan?
That's actually funny. Yeah, so she just Nick, what's that school event they do?
She's got homecoming.
Homecoming.
You know what homecoming is?
From like movies and shit, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly my response. Yeah, from movies. So I was like, hey, does that mean you do the big dance? And she goes, something like that. But I was genuinely excited to know, like, what does that mean? Yeah. So she's going through, her school and juggling through that in the off season. So it's important for us. And this is one of the conversations we had early on, and it's quite apparent in our sport, particularly with the young women, to make sure that there's balance there. And that's something we've done since working with her, of making sure that we have those open communications. At her age, we want to make sure that we have, Nick and I and the team are thinking long-term and longevity rather than flash in the pan and having a successful year. And she's so mature in that sense, going, hey, like my body's feeling a bit sore and I've got this coming up at school, or I have this sport event at school. I just need to tweak a few things. So that maturity from her at that point is absolutely what we're chasing, and that what we want to mirror and see more athletes do and have that with us.
That's cool. I realize this is kind of like I'm just kind of punching you in the face with athletes' names, but I just want to get through them all. Is Sydney hanging around as well? Then is that the plan, that she's proven still?
Yeah, we can't get rid of Sydney right now. She's one of those athletes where we tried to get her to take some time off, and I think she was ready to go bang, bang, bang right in the gym. So right now, who do we have? Like day to day, Taylor's training. She's obviously done competing, but her and Sydney are in the gym together with Coach Will and Dwight. And then Olivia's going to be coming and make some trips. I think Nick Matthew will be coming and making some trips. Will Moore adds around. And then we've got some other athletes that are overseas. But for the most part, like right now, we've got everybody that we had outside of those two that you mentioned. And everybody's moving forward in the right direction, which is great.
And what about Shane mentioned that there'll always be changes in the rosters every year. What about, like, we've talked about the outgoings? What about incomings? Are you expecting any new arrivals?
That sounds to be another ...
Uh,
right there.
Oh, but like you
Yeah.
can tease something. Surely you can hint or allude.
Well,
Sorry.
I think, yeah, no, that those things will come out in time. But what Nick and I, well, what I've stressed on and what Nick and I want to do, make sure is that we've got these other big projects coming up, and we've informed our athletes or our roster currently, like, hey, these are our big markers for first quarter of next year, and this is what we're looking to hope to achieve. So we've put a pause on a few other little projects and athletes and roster development on that front, and applied all our resources into this big mecca.
Okay, big Mecca. Is it going to be CrossFit Big Mecca? Is that affiliate name available?
Oh, that's pretty good. Trademark that. Somebody get that on the trademark right now.
Yeah. Because you can't use a brand name, isn't that right? You can't say like CrossFit Proven, can you? Or can you?
No, you can. You can.
Yeah, we've got it.
You can at the games right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
because
going
our
to be
affiliate here
CrossFit
in
Proven.
Sunshine Coast, where Tier and I train, well, I train out of, Tier trains out of, is affiliated. I think it's affiliated.
CrossFit
Yeah,
Proven Fitness. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Nicholas, yeah,
The
Yeah,
one
so
that
Tia
that
wanted
you
to
train
do
in
open-
Australia is CrossFit Proven Fitness.
yeah.
So, but can you transfer that name to America? Have you wasted that name now on Australia? Like, can you not use that now?
That's something we're going to have to find out. Yeah, good question. Hey, these are the learning curves we're all learning.
Yeah.
No, you think about it, like you look at Invictus, right? Like there's plenty of options there that you can just add different buildings to. And I think that's kind of the long term as well, right? We've got so many affiliates around the world who truly come to us. They're like, hey, how can we be a proven gym? How can we open our doors to have the proven name on it? So that's something that very long term, once we get a space that we really feel confident about, once we get the infrastructure, that's where we want to go as well.
Yeah. See that technique there, Shane? Like most people would view that as just me being clumsy. But I like knocked over that bottle. You were kind of startled. You didn't even know what was happening, and then you basically gave away the affiliate name. Then just because all the clamor that was going on, it's all just like smoke and mirrors.
You got a master class for that?
Yeah.
What's the plan then, Shane? So T is doing Rogue. That came out like 3 days ago.
Yep.
Like, how does that like, how do you land on that decision? I'm assuming she's like 99.9% of the decision, and you're just saying like, sounds good, like that. You try not to sway one way or the other way, I guess. But when you like, do you worry? Like, because I know, like, say as a husband of a wife who's had a child or two children, like, it's hard to get back to, like, I remember for months my wife was like, I just don't feel the way I used to feel. Like nothing feels the way, like just bending down to pick something up doesn't feel like the way it felt 2 months ago, or like pre-pregnancy, like, or getting up out of bed. Like like 6 months after the baby was born, she was like, getting up out of bed just doesn't feel the same as it did before the baby. Or like she kind of had to relearn burpees or squats, or, it was like just I remember her saying it was a bizarre experience, like that it just kind of didn't feel like it was her body. Like, for someone like Tia, who is like elite peak performance, like literally the peak of performance for years, is it worrisome at all? Like, do you just have to totally trust her judgment that like it's not just the drive to really, like, I need to compete and do well and everything else that might overshadow any of those kind of other concerns of like the longevity or the 20 years time kind of talk, like that, other mothers might think when they're starting to go back into CrossFit or any kind of activity?
Yeah, I think Tia is unique in this sense. I think that's a given there. With those conversations, the biggest thing was making sure Tia is healthy, and that, and what Tia said is a non-negotiable, that Willow's healthy and happy too, right? And now that we've got a good balance and we've got family to support us in in the babysitting duties or just sharing Willow around, which she absolutely loves. It's been awesome for us to have that support. But in terms of like performance and understanding what T is capable of and the road back to the games, this is just a marker that T needs to do. She needs to, brush off all the cobwebs and make sure that she knows where her body is precisely. And that's what this opportunity is about, is to find out where her getting out of bed, so to speak, feels and what that is, just so that we can sharpen up and know how to make the right adjustments for the next season. Tia's made a phenomenal recovery from postpartum or after birth of Willow, and to put things in time frame. And
wasn't she the alternate on the team? Is that true?
Yeah.
The minute she had Willow, we said you got to get back to training just in case, because we've got 2 months. Like, you're our only option. So if we need you, you got to be ready.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and she's done a phenomenal job coming back. And we're talking, in the big picture sense too, right? We're talking about May was when Willow was born, and she's going to enter a competition 5 months after that,
it's not even just a competition. It's like rogue. It's like heavy. It's like, it's not like she's going to do a little triathlon, it's the like strength comp. It's like everything's heavy. It's, you know what I mean? It's like it's the best 19 is who she's going up against. It's not like it's just like a little pissy Mickey Mouse thing in like Brisbane or whatever that she's just going down to see what happens. Like, I
think that's a bit of a telltale too of like where Tia's mindset is.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if I'm going to size myself up, I want to size myself up with a great opportunity to be at the Rogue Invitational and do it amongst the best. Like that's going to give her and me the best indicator of what we need to work on. And I think she's going to surprise a few people of like how far she's come in the period of time. Like, there's no denying that it's obviously she's just given birth. Like, that's a reality, and there's been a lot of like adjustments in terms of like balance coordination and just like getting the repetitions into the body, and that's just the reality. So we understand there's going to be some form of adjustment required for that, but in terms of like mental and clarity for Tia, like she's just got this now profound view of what she wants to achieve next year, and that's because of, I think we've heard it many times with athletes with new mums in the sport too, like they've got a new why, they've got a new reason, and Tia's absolutely got that same drive now. I've got, okay, like I want to do this for Willow to see what a strong woman looks like and what it means to be a role model for her, and that anything's possible in terms of what the body's capable of. And I think for her to change the narrative is completely different to what I would have heard 3 or 4 years ago. And it was the same mundane message. She just wants to outdo her performance the previous year, and keep doing that. But now to hear her say a different why and what it means to her is something I didn't think would be a sentence she would use. So for me, it's exciting to see that. And I'm excited for Rogue in terms of just seeing her get out there. I feel like it's been a long year for me in terms of like being not necessarily an idol, but like I haven't seen her compete, and I'm excited to see it. I feel like I'm a fan of the sport too, and I just want to see her give her best.
Yeah, you're tired of watching her pace in her cage, like waiting to get out. Yeah, we just need
her out of the cage.
Yeah. It is, because I think that was one of the things that I thought of when I remember saying that. I was like texting a few friends, and I was kind of like, she hasn't lost an in-person competition. There's no way she's going to do Rogue. Like, that was my initial thought. Like, when people were like, oh, I wonder, is she the last spot? Like, this is maybe 3 weeks ago when I think people were saying, oh, Bethany Flores is out. She was skipped over, so they're obviously saving a space. But then Bethany was in anyway, so that was irrelevant. But there was a space, so Tia was in. But before that, I was kind of thinking like, no, there's no way. Like, would you risk that legacy of I've never lost an in-person competition in however many years to come back? Like, why not wait until like semifinals or the games or whatever? But now I think hearing you, because I think I was basing that off, say, the last games documentary, where all the narrative at the end from her was like, what do I have to do to prove myself? Like, who do I have to beat? Like, you know, I am the best, and you know, I can prove it again and again. And you know, that was kind of the narrative of, and it was amazing to see like the transformation of first documentary she was in of like, oh, I'm actually kind of shit, to like saying like, you know, do you want me to enter the men's field? But I think I was basing my assumptions off that, like, and I mean, fuck me for assuming, but like I was basing my assumptions off that of like, that's not the type of person that's going to just enter a competition just to see where she is and to whatever. But hearing you say that like it's not, she's not doing it for the same reasons anymore, basically, that like obviously she still wants to do well, and obviously she still wants to outperform her best and everyone else's best and everything else, but like it's not for that legacy anymore. It's not for the legacy of podiums and stuff.
Yes, well, still podiums on there, mate. But I think it's a testament. I think it's a testament to Tia too, right? Like she doesn't get caught up in the narrative of what the media are trying to say or project of like being undefeated and all that. I'm sure in the back of her mind she's well aware of her accolades, but I'd like to challenge that thought process of like, isn't it, for me, this is more of a testament to her to go, okay, like you've just given birth in the same year and you're trying to come back at arguably a more, you know, an arguably a game's top 20 field, you know. That challenge alone is, for me, more exciting to see how she copes and handles that. And the fact that these other lingering thoughts of like undefeated and all that haven't really crossed her mind or aren't really the forefront of her mind just shows me that her mindset is completely different to how we all think and where her driver is. But yeah, you're right. Like some things have changed in terms of like having Willow and how she wants to be shown and that how you can overcome anything you want. You just got to put the work in and all that good stuff. But I'm just proud of her that she's getting to do something that she wants to do, and that she's got an opportunity at Rogue to really knuckle down and show where she's at so that she can work on chasing that number 7 next year. And that's the big picture, right? Like I was trying to say this to an athlete the other day on a conference call or a call. It's just like they were asking like, hey, should I be doing these off-season competitions? And I said, well, what's your goal? And she goes, well, I want to make it to the CrossFit Games. And then it's like, well, you should be absolutely doing higher level competitions if you have the opportunity to, because it just gives you that more experience for you to get to your goal. And what is your goal? It's to get to the games. And the limiting factor is semifinals. So we need more in-person competition to get you better prepared for that. So they're the conversations that Tia sees or understands is this is the path to get herself to the 7th. I need to know where I'm at accurately rather than this illusion that I'm undefeated. No, like I need to know physically where I'm at so that I can chase the number 7 accurately.
Yeah, it is. It is remarkable. Like I use this in like it's a compliment, but she's a freak. Like it's crazy. Like just a physical abnormality. It's like, you know, it's like it's bizarre. Like, and like all of that is intended as a compliment. I just find it like I just can't wrap my head around the physical demands of, like, I've seen the physical demands of like motherhood, and then on top of that, the physical demands of like first time motherhood, and on top of that, the physical demands of like, oh, I'm just gonna go and fucking qualify for Rogue and like just do that, and that's fine. So like it's just crazy to me. The timeline is just like it's nuts. But yeah, it's so are you going to be there? Is like Willow going to be in like one of those little like front papooses? Like a little Joey.
So that was one of the logistics that we had to work through. So Tia's family's coming over with us. They're going to come out the week of to help, you know, like just allow Tia and I to go in the zone. So Willow will be amongst the crowd. Jay Crouch and myself and Tia, we're going to head over on the 16th of November to America and get ourselves situated and then get ready for Rogue because
October.
We're coming.
Right?
Sorry. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
We're coming out of.
I was like, man, you're going to miss it.
We're coming out of winter here, so we just need to get that time zone. You know how it works with acclimate, with jet lag and stuff. So you know, we've got 2 weeks or just under 2 weeks to prepare. Cool. So honestly, we're excited for it.
Was the trip to Australia now? Was that like a let's go to the lab, let's like lock ourselves in a cave and see what we can make happen in a few weeks? Or was it like, hey, let's go see some family? And, you know, like, I feel like it was more the former than the latter. Would that be accurate?
I thought it was, but I was listening to Tia on a podcast, and she said, "No, this was one of my milestones. You know, if if Willow was healthy and that was going really well, and we had a great balance there, then my next marker was to compete at Rogue." So she's had this in the back of her mind since, I don't know. I've actually got to ask her about that, but that has been the case. But for some part, right, I was just about, okay, like, am I able to do a lot of the loads? And I think some of the markers for us is like, can you do 90% of majority of your lifts before getting into this competition? Because the last thing we want to do, and we just spoke about how important it is to make sure that we set up next year to be a success, is not overdoing something in the short term too early, like coming in too soon.
It's remarkable as well. I was watching. Is it BC? Does he do the Prvn videos or the Tia videos, or who does those?
Yep, BC.
Because I was watching one before you left for Australia, and she was lifting, and she seemed to be in that kind of like not relearning, but like she had like fairly.
Yeah, when you said remarkable, I thought, okay, he's not talking about anything I did. He must be talking about Tia. Go on.
No, I
because it lagged, and I'm like, remarkable. I'm like, yeah, Tia.
No, it actually is about you. So I find it remarkable that, like, there is part of me that thinks sometimes. I think, like, I wonder would Tia do really well if she just like had a dog bringing her to the games. Like, how much can a coach help someone like her now? You know, like now at this stage, I mean, like, you've gotten her to this point, and now it's like, I wonder if she just went with like a cardboard cutout of Scooby-Doo, like, would she still do the same? Like, how much input does a coach have now with someone that's like 6-time champion and stuff? But like in that video, the minutia of the detail that you were picking up on, I think she's either doing push jerks or split jerks. I think it was push jerks. And you were like, you know, she was doing them, and I was just like, oh, they look pretty good. Like, obviously, what the fuck do I know? But like, she'd put down the bar, and you were like, oh, you're actually doing, and now, again, I'm fucking useless, so I can't remember what you're saying. But you're like, oh, you're actually doing this, and that's why your feet are going a tiny bit wide. And like, you need to do this, that, and the other. And I was like, man, imagine being a good enough coach that you can give tips to see it to me and tell her like, hey, you just messed that up there. You need to do this differently. It's like it's the level of like, it was minuscule things, but obviously, like you're saying, those 90% things, those 90% lifts, those small little things at the weight that she was doing there, if they were allowed to continue in whatever 3 or 4 months time, it would just lead to some kind of big problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the first 3 months for her to come back are actually really like the most important throughout the next 12 months, really, because like I said, like just working on coordination and balance and understanding the limitations or what are concerns for her from movement patterns. She may feel good, but she may have also forgotten how she did prior, like how she used to look. So I think that's where the experience of my eye comes in. But she's always had this great ability to understand, like, hey, what feels off and what doesn't. And I think she just needs, hey, like, what did you see from your angle? Like, was there anything I can do differently? But
I got a good one for you too, Peter. So we were on the phone 2 nights ago, Shane and I, and he's in the middle of training with Jay and Tia, and we're talking business. It's XYZ, good conversation being had. All of a sudden, I hear just yelling in the background. Shane's telling Tia not to push out her jerks. Like, literally, like, they're in the middle. I'm like, we're back. This is it. Because for 2023, it was such a weird switch to flip because Tia was a human again. Like, we had meetings every single day about whatever it was. We went out for coffee. We had whatever. She was a human being. And I had forgotten about just how much goes into what a champion needs like that. Yeah. Just like you said, like, it's just the little stuff that's so crazy that no one thinks about. She's in the middle of a garage basically in Australia right now. No cameras. Nobody can see what's going on. and Shane is there telling her that the half a centimeter that isn't being locked out on her jerks needs to be fixed. But I think, like, to your point, it's so cool to see the little details of that he can bring that people, I think, overlook when accolades come around a lot.
And I think it's understandable that people overlook it, because it's like, again,
absolutely.
it's the 6th-time champ. You assume it's just like, just tie up your shoes and off you go. Do you know, where it's like, oh, there's a tiny bit, your thumb moved, or, you know, like just those small little things that are, it's the 0.00001% that makes the difference for someone that's at the very, very tip of the spear.
Yeah, I think there's a time for it too, right? Like, this is the right time. This is the building foundation. And
you're not going to do it in the middle of Rogue. Be like, you pushed out that jerk.
yeah, exactly. Or like 2 weeks out from Rogue, where we need to build the confidence. It's like, hey, we'll revisit them in a couple of weeks, but let's keep firing away. Yeah. No, it's exciting. This is the part that I love the most, and that's why it's exciting to have Nic on board too. And he's been doing a phenomenal job in that and steering the ship. But I get to be back with the athletes and what I generally love getting up and doing. So, so now that we're through the, I don't know, you tell me, but I feel like we're through some of the thick of it, Willow and the sleeping patterns and stuff like that. I feel like every week I'm getting more on top of a lot of the things that I missed.
I'll tell you what, if you feel like you're through the thick of it now, you're in a better place than I am. And I'm 3 years in. Like, I remember once I had a conversation with one of my friends, right? We both had kids around the same time. We had our first kid in December. He had his first kid in like February. And we were chatting in like summer. And he goes, he was like, oh man, it's shit, like the lack of sleep, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it's rough. It is rough, in fairness. And like, nothing really prepares you for it, but like, you just kind of get on with it. But I was like, yeah, it is. It's rough, isn't it? And he was like, yeah, like, he's like, what time do you put Sloan down at? And I was like, oh, you put her down at about 7. And then he was like, yeah, we're the same. Yeah, we put her down about 7. And then he's like, then you have to wake her up for the bottle at 8. And I was like, what? And he was like, you have to wake her up, give her the bottle at 8. And I was like, would you not just give her the bottle before you put her to bed? And then, like, why would you put her to sleep for an hour and then give her a bottle? Like, give her the bottle first. And he was like, no, in the morning. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're complaining about having to wake up your child after 13 hours and you're saying that you're tired. I was like, my kid wakes up at 9, 10:30, 12. Like, it's just like, he was like, oh right, geez, no, I didn't realize it was that bad now. I was like, fuck's sake.
I knew there was a red flag when you said that he woke the baby up. I'm like, no, the baby's up. It'll wake you up when it needs to be fed.
yeah. There is that stage as well. I'm sure you've had it where you know, you put the baby down and then you're like, oh, it's too quiet. Are they dead? Should I go and check? And you're like, I'll wake them up just to make sure. And then it's like, oh fuck, no, they were fine. I just woke them up for nothing.
Yeah. I'm sure go over there and just flick her hand, just and see if I get like a reaction. And then it's too much of a reaction. Then she wakes up. I'm like, boy.
You flick her hand and then she moves, and you're like, oh, you pumped with your legs first. You need to brace a bit more before. Nick, I'm sure you get this with Bruce as well. I'm sure you're always like checking if he's awake and like.
Sleep schedule gets. I won't bring it into it. It's fine. I won't complain.
Have you had that? You know, where you're talking about because I get that sometimes where people are talking about like their dog like a child, and you have just had a child, and you're like, yeah. It's great, man. It's just not the same. It's just like, oh, they're so cute when they do this. Like, it's yours is a dog though. I'm like, great, really happy for you, but it's a dog, like human child, totally different, like not the same thing. With Nick, then with Taylor retiring, that's bizarre for you, is it? Is that weird? Like, is that like a shot? Maybe is it softened somewhat the fact that she's still kind of training and knocking around the gym and stuff, or because it's a very like your entire CrossFit experience has been her competing, really.
Yeah, I've been with her and Andrea since 2017. I mean, it's that we've been through it all together. I think we've seen every corner of the US. We've been on so many different teams, so it's a definite life change. The good thing about this one was that we knew going into the year this was it. Like they've said it before, but we knew for a fact like Taylor was getting a job, Andrea's moving on to some things, Tim was retiring as well, so that softens it a little bit. But I think we haven't hit that point yet where it feels real, because every fall off season we go through this where nothing's going on. We'll get back to it in January. So I think once January rolls around and she's not doing what her career has been for this long, it'll be a little weird. But it's been really cool to see she's already full-time into her job and what she's doing and how much passion she has for it. It's been cool to kind of fill that void with what she knows she's going to be doing forever.
And will she be there to advise the Prvn team for next year then as well? Is that the plan?
If there's going to be one, man. I know you're trying to get an answer there, but we got no idea on that one. It's the team stuff. Like, I don't think we knew. We actually talked with Tim, right? Like, we didn't know we had a team until end of December last year. Yeah. So who knows? Like, it always comes about, and like Shane's talked about, we've got a lot of other things we got to figure out first. We thought the team had a really good place in our camp. Like, the amount of leveling up they did to our camp from a veteran standpoint was really good. I think a lot of the younger athletes learned a lot about how to train and how to get in and out of the gym and get things done while you're there from those guys. So we wouldn't be opposed to it at all. I know Tola is still raring to go, so that's a conversation that we want to have when he's ready about it. But nothing planned as of right now.
And I think with CrossFit too, I think they've got a few announcements to make with the dates for the games too, like what that looks like. I know that's in the back of some of the teams' minds of like, hey, do we even have season next year? What does that look like? You know, and there's some of the logistics things that Nick and I have spoken about. Like, what do the teams look like they're doing? The Masters are doing. Like, are there adjustments for that? Is there an additional competition for the individual athletes? So I think for us to project, and I think you know this too quite well, that no two seasons are identical, and that we just always need to make adjustments here and there for what CrossFit throw at us, you know. So there's some of the things that it'd be easy if the seasons were consistent to like start projecting what the
you need a different sport
would look like.
Different sport.
yeah, exactly. I think there's no secret there. So I think we're hesitant to share complete, or just in case there is a big mix up in the season. There's no, like, you know, some of the rumors are no teams or masters. So it's like, well, that shakes our roster pretty hard, or that shapes what our, you know, our building phase looks like for a team and all that stuff. Because it could be at the end of the year, it could be somewhere else, you know. So I think what we're trying to say is like, there's a lot of logistics that we need to wait to unfold that will help us pave our path for at least for the next year.
Big success of the year on the competition floor, Jay Crouch, like unbelievable. Someone who's been kind of, like he said himself, he's been getting to the games and then just being like overwhelmed and just like like not able to give what he thinks he can give, and not feeling strong enough, not feeling fit enough. He absolutely like trounced it this year. He was so good. Is that just pure, like, when you got him and started looking at his programming and stuff, are you like, oh yeah, like tweak, like no problem? Or like, do you like, because obviously you didn't have a full, like you didn't have a whole season with him. It was like at like around semifinals ish time, wasn't it? So how intense can you be there with, you know, a few months to go?
Yeah. Honestly, we just got on the leaderboards from previous years and seeing where the holes were lacking for him and what he needed. I think it's easy to do that when you have fresh eyes on a job as well, like where you can go, okay, like, well, this is glaring. And then you start getting into the nuts and bolts of it, and they're like, oh, it's because I have lack of range of motion here, or whatever. So you make adjustments there. But for someone like Jay, it's been phenomenal because a lot of it's just more about allowing him to have an environment to succeed and having that hands-on coaching ability, because he came out to Nashville about a month before the game, so that month was critical for him in development. He rode his first road bike and mountain bike in a workout scenario, you know. So did
you let him use the stabilizers, or did you? What did you
I took the training wheels off. Yeah, I gave him an introduction, but they're the conversations, right? Like, where, oh wow, like, okay, we need to work on this. Let's get a few touches on that in the chance that there's a bike or whatever there may be. But he's absorbed it really well, and he's been quite, because I think when you're a remote athlete, communication, like through text or phone call, is number one priority, because that's what you're basically basing the whole relationship off. So it's vital in that sense. as opposed to being in person where you're feeling their energy and you're going off that. And I get a better read on that. But sometimes, anyway. So when Jay came down, we could just see where the limitation were and where his notes were like, oh, okay, he was right. He needed more of this, so let's double down on that. But Jay Stone, so like the guy is absolutely gifted and talented, and I don't like the word gifted. Actually, I think that's I don't know, that's for us commoners to think that they've got these special powers. But he's worked really hard on a lot of his abilities, and I think he just needed the confidence in himself to understand that, hey, man, like you belong here, and this is the way you conduct yourself at semifinals is the way I want to see you present yourself at the games, where you just have this ruthless energy from start to finish an event, and I want to see more of that. And it's just building out workouts for him to go through. So my games was working with Jay and Olivia predominantly. And so having those dialogue conversations where I was like just giving him input of like, hey, bring food for this event. Like you're going to be out there for longer than you want to have this. So some of those details were what I was carrying or just being a caddy for. But I must commend him and give him complete, and his training staff prior to this point, like a lot of credit in terms of like, he moves so well. Now I needed him to lean into that and then trust himself that his fitness will take him there based off the building plan that we had with him for the last 10 weeks.
But even like he's a different, I found him a different person to speak to. Like, so I talked to him when he was in Nashville and he was like much more relaxed, much more confident, much more like he was the Jay Crouch that I had heard about but hadn't spoken to, and I'd interviewed him like prior to that, and I'd like text, like DM him and stuff, and I found him like, nice, like pleasant, like nothing wrong, like he wasn't like cold or anything, but just like a bit stifled maybe, or like the I don't know, he just kind of holding back, I think.
I agree. I felt like there was some switch changed in him too, because he's got a rogue as well, and we've already set the pavement or the expectation for him. It's like what I want from this weekend is for you to get out there and learn more about yourself. Don't go for the cleanest execution. Go out there and work out. Because in an athlete's mind, when they see a workout, let's call it 30 ring muscle ups, in their mind, they're like, for a male, like, oh boy, I could do this unbroken. But I won't, because it's the CrossFit Games or it's a semifinals and I only have one weekend to get this right. So I'm going to do 310s. For him at Rogue, I'm like, man, go for it. Like, go for 30 and then build that confidence. Like know for sure that your strategy is right for semifinals. And that's what I encourage in these off-season competitions. But don't get me wrong, Rogue's not a light one to take, but it's hard for an Australian athlete to get that exposure at these very elite levels. So when you get them, you need to come here with an open mindset of, I need to feel like I'm getting something out of this, and B, it's great brand exposure too. So like, how do I get the combination of that? So I think for me to put onto him is like, I need you to basically make mistakes and then learn from them. And some of these mistakes will turn out some great successes, like holding on and doing 30 ring muscle ups. You'll surprise yourself, and that's a great strategy moving forward, and you'll be better and prouder for it. So just articulating some of those conversations for Jay has been huge for me to see him grasp that and make the right adjustments.
Yeah.
I would say, Peter, too, like he personifies everything we talked about before. Like, you, just to your point, like I'd met Jay before and it was just like, hey, how are you? Good to see you, and then move on. There wasn't much conversation there. When we heard he was coming over, he was kind of that first athlete that we had the conversation with, like, hey, if this is going to work, you've got to do X, Y, Z. You've got to be on top of this stuff. You've got to communicate with everything, like Shane had spoke about. And he leaned into that more than most athletes we've ever seen in the sport, because he had a desire to do so much better than he had performed last year at the games. So that was, I think you talked about it being reactive to things earlier, which seems negative, but this was on the complete opposite side where it was the positive, right? Like, we saw what worked so well with Jay that moving forward, we know that athletes need to do X, Y, Z to get them where they want to go, because that was a playbook that Jay laid out. And look what happened. That's exactly what we wanted to see.
Because even like I spoke to him between events in Madison, and he was just so relaxed. Like, he was laughing, joking, like, like he just was so relaxed, so casual. But like then you look at him on the floor, and it is, I think maybe part of it was that like he was afraid if he switched it off, he couldn't switch it on again or something. And now he knows that he has that instinct, like that he's able to, like 3, 2, 1, it's different. But like, yeah, it's so great to see him thriving, because it has been, I think, from the outside looking in, it has been a disappointment. I'm sure he was disappointed as well when you see him like do so well at Torian and then go to the games and it's like, oh yeah, like, I mean, he did okay, like, but not as well as you'd expect a winner of a sanction or a semi-final or whatever to do. So it's nice now to see him get the reward for the effort that he's putting in, and the fact that, like, it's paying off, I guess. I don't want to say hard work pays off. I almost said it.
I mean, but that's what it is, right? Like, his hard work is paying off, and it's a testament and credit to him and what he's been prioritizing. So it's awesome to see. Like, and yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him and the season that he's had. And I think the thing that stands out, the most proud thing about him, is making those adjustments that you've seen. That actually really jollies me up, because it's like, okay, cool. Like, he's conducting himself differently, and that's half the battle. You got to see yourself as who you want to be, rather than being timid the whole time. And not that he was, but you need to see yourself differently in order to see change. So it sounds like he's projected that. So that's probably the most exciting thing I've heard about him, which is awesome. Because performance is one aspect.
Beck is wondering, is there going to be any media coming out, like any kind of vlog about them training together, J&T in Australia or anything?
I mean, I wish BC Vision was here. He'd love it. It's been awesome, because we've been doing some runbacks of some of the prior Rogue events, and seeing some of the, like, Jace times have been phenomenal, right? And Tiers too, but maybe we'll try to find someone in the local area and see if we can get someone. I mean, if someone's listening now, and
when you asked earlier if this was like a lockdown camp, it's basically been like Rocky camp. It feels like, when he's getting ready for a fight. Like, I haven't talked to Tia like more than a couple of sentences probably in 3 weeks, and it's like, okay, she's back, and I think that's awesome for Jay. And I know Maddie's been there as well, and she's going to have a great season, as I know she's looking to kind of make the same move that Jay did. But I think it's cool to have them kind of locked down, because Tia's whole career in the last couple of years has been on camera. It's been, hey, what can we get out? What can we use here, there? And I think she needed to kind of go to that dark place and be in solitude with these guys for a bit. So I think it'll pay off for Rogue for sure.
Punch some racks of beef or whatever in the toolbox. Yeah. I would. I don't compliment myself often, but I would consider myself to be maybe like the second best interviewer or CrossFit based podcast in the space. Shane Jan is asking, would you ever go on Savan's podcast, who is, I would consider to be the best interviewer in the space? Would you ever consider going on that?
Look, it'd have to be the right timing. I think timing is a big thing for that. And I message, so Savan messages, and we go back and forth sometimes on texting. So we do keep in communication. For me, it's just making sure that that the timing's right and that everything aligns and we share the same conversation thread.
That's fair. Yeah, it'd be a very good conversation. It'd be a better conversation than I'd have with you, I'd say.
I think this is our third chat, isn't it? Can't be that bad.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, actually. That's a good point. Yeah, fuck it. You're right, Shane. So the bags, why the fuck is that? Oh, there we go. The bags, that's the big news for the week. And then the big news for the rest of the off season is potentially, like, definitely an affiliate, probably in Nashville, probably going to be called CrossFit Proven Nashville. T is going to Rogue. She has her new why, and she's hoping to, I guess, raise some eyebrows with her performances. Jay is going to, it sounds like Jay's going to swing for the fences. Is that fair? That's his plan at Rogue? Just like see what happens. Yeah. And then you're still undecided. The season, I guess, dictates the team aspect and all that kind of stuff. So that's, I suppose, your your focus for now is Rogue. See what happens. And then, are you guys happy with the Texas thing? Is that like, oh, nice one? That's a lot easier to get to than other years, or like do you let that impact you?
It's easier internationally. I know that. For instance, like to catch a flight from Brisbane to Sydney, you can get direct to Dallas, which is already a savings of in Australian dollars, $3,000 to $5,000 just saved off the bat there. So that's substantial in terms of like spectator friendly. In terms of like flights for us or driving, it works out almost identical. I think it's like 10-hour drive, so it hasn't changed in that front. Heat's going to be real depending on how much is indoor versus outdoor, so that's going to be a bigger factor. I love the heat. I think it comes back to our Australian background of like upbringing. I think that's going to be important in that sense. I think I loved Madison. I think Madison was phenomenal. Like the whole city takes over and it's so lush and green and it's beautiful. But I do think that a change is important, in terms of like allowing the sport to grow and seeing CrossFit Games and Castro make those changes. It is good to see, as long as we have the fan base there and we have growth following it too, right?
Do you do air miles, Shane? Like, do you get miles for like going to Australia? You must have an insane amount.
Well, during COVID, we never, right? Like the goal was like prior to our whole development and all that, it was like to follow the CrossFit season, be here from January to August, and then go back home, hunker down. But because of COVID, it changed a few things, and throughout that, Prvn was born, and so it looks like we spend 9 months of the year over in the US and 3 months back home, and then throw in a few seminars internationally. So yeah, there's a bit of traveling involved, but that's the sport too, and it's growing in that sense. 10 years ago, the athletes weren't traveling as much. They just come over for the games.
I was even just thinking you could probably bump Jay up to first class with some of your miles. when you're going up the road, you'd be like, at the tail, you could just be like, I got this, Jay. Don't worry about it. It's like there's 4 million miles on that card. You can use that one. Nick, what time is it there in Nashville?
4:24.
What the fuck is wrong with your clock, man? Your clock is like saying it's like 25
There's
past.
Nothing wrong with it.
It's not the correct time.
It's right twice a day.
Oh, you fucking bellend. Rambler has actually commented honestly 5,000 times on this show, but he's saying,
noticing this over here.
My god, I like his fingers must be on fire. He's saying
normal? Is this a normal guy for your show?
Yeah, like I feel like obviously drank some kind of energy drink because this is excessive. But I mean, I'm here for it. It's probably good for the algorithm. The backpack is so smart, 45 liters for max carry on. Yeah, perfect for that. Can it fit under the seat? It can, and I've done it. And if anybody tells you that it can't, you just say, put me in my seat and watch me fit it under the chair in front of me, because I've done that. Ewan gave me a prototype for a suitcase. They're doing like a hard shell suitcase.
Yeah.
And he gave me a prototype for it to bring. And you know what? So like I left Dublin, went to, where the fuck did I go? Chicago. It's when I went, was it? Yeah, when I went to the games. Flew to Chicago, no problem. Coming back, the woman at the desk goes, oh, you have to put that into large like item. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, you have to put that into large item. And I was like, it's the size of a fucking carry-on bag. Why do I have to put it into large item? I just want to put it into the hold. Oh, but it's unusual. And I was like, what's unusual about it? She was like, she goes, it's a toolbox. And I was like, it's fucking not a toolbox. My clothes are in it. And then I had like a backpack and one of their Red Bull like carry-on bags. And she goes, oh, you can only bring one bag on. And I was like, no, this is my personal item. I mean, I was taking the piss, but I was like, this is my personal item. This is my carry-on. She goes, okay, put the two of them on the scales. And I was like, I'd rather not. She was like, put the two of them on the scales. She fucking charged me $100 to put the suitcase into the carry-on into the hold. And I still had to walk down to the other fucking place with the bag and hand it to you. I was like, why am I giving you this bag? And he goes, just looks weird. I was like, right, okay, like, fine.
Did you text Ewan about that immediately?
No, I genuinely just now I'm thinking I gave him no feedback about that at all, and now I'm outing him on the podcast as your design for the big suitcase was poor. The bags are actually really good though. So listen, thanks very much, Shane. Best of luck with all your future investments. Listen, if there's any like kind of currency that you think is going to like give a boost, just let us know, and we'll share it out because we all want a piece of that pie. It's exciting though. I'm excited to see Tia back. I'm sure everyone else as well, and see Jay and Will and everyone else at Rogue. Best of luck with everything. Good luck with the affiliate and all that kind of stuff that you've got planned, allegedly or hypothetically, and otherwise. Might see you in Miami, maybe Wadapalooza. You going to that? Maybe.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, I think that's the plan. We're working on that stuff. Well, Nick's working on that stuff. He's been doing that for a while now.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. It's been great to talk to you. Congratulations on that news that might or might not happen in the next few weeks. And good luck at Rogue.
Thanks, mate. No, I appreciate your time, and thanks for coordinating with my time zone and Nick's and yours.
No problem. It's only like it's 10:30. Anything exciting happen tomorrow, Shane, so I can prepare myself for the future and like know what it's like.
I can give you some crypto tips if you like.
Oh yeah. Wait,